Great morning, humans. Let's attempt to get us streaming live on the other platforms. Great morning. Great Monday morning to all of you. It's such an honor and a privilege to be here, to get another 24 ahead of us. Let's see. Can we get this going live here on the Instagram? The Instagram. One more try. All right. We keep attempting that. Maybe we'll get back to that. Great morning, my friends. Great morning. Such a honor and a privilege to be here with you today. I'm happy that you're here as well. But it's an honor and a privilege that we get to do this, right? We're gonna be talking about the morning structure, and I'm gonna share with you, where I years and years and years ago learned about this just incredibly valuable piece of real estate in the morning, and create a structure that I call the Great Morning Rise Up that I got from the initial learning about the amazing Hal Elrod. But today's going to be really, really special because today is going to be a rise up that is going to just arm and equip you with something that truly is within your control, something that you can completely jump in and enjoy right away. So let's try that right one more time. It's so strange. Let's see if we can reboot that. And it comes up again now. It doesn't. All right. So no Instagram today. All right. So great morning, everybody. I'm your boy, Dr. JC Dornick, aka The Dragon. And like I said, this is another rise up that is going to just really put you in the seat of control. I was just watching my daughter play video games, and she's controlling what's on the screen with this controller. Everything that she tells her character to do, it does. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to do that with our lives. And today is going to be a special one because I would say one of the most valuable shifts that I ever made is that I learned how to take control of my morning routine. And I'm going to share with you, not the whole morning routine, but I will tell you right off the bat that if anything that you hear me say resonates and vibes with you, just simply respond and say, hey, listen, can you send me the morning routine? And I'll send you the full one. It's not something that I sell or anything like that. So if you want my full morning routine from start to finish with all the explanation and links to anything, any resources that I use, just ask for it. Just say, hook me up with a morning routine and I'll give it to you. So today I'm going to do what I call the power of mornings. So we're going to arm ourselves with the awareness of this, like I said, real estate. Now there's great real estate at the end of the day, but we're going to talk about our mornings. And I call this from miracle morning to great morning rise up routine. So here's a cool quote from the great Hal Elrod, which is the guy that initially turned me on to this. Like, I always knew that you had to have structure in your mornings, but I didn't really understand how powerful and important it was. And it was something that I would do occasionally, right? So I credit him with giving me that information. And I'd like to think that I took what he created and upgraded it. And it's proven to be the catalyst for most of my success, but more importantly, my positive mental attitude. A lot of people ask me how I manage to stay in a good mood or see the bright side of things. And there's a lot of things, there's a lot of mechanics behind that, but one of them is that I take control of my brain in the morning. And I credit Hal Elrod for initially teaching me that. So here's a quote that I get from him. How you wake up each day and your morning routine or lack thereof dramatically affects your levels of success in every single area of your life. So that's a statement. I read something like that and I say, well, I'm going to check that out because I didn't currently, at the time that I first learned about this, I didn't have something set up. Like I would either have a good morning routine and go exercise and read, but I didn't like practice the structure of it. So I call this reclaim the reins of your life before the world wakes up. So that's what's cool about the morning, especially if you get up early, is it's one of the few times, there's a lot of data of some very, very high performance people that utilize the time that nobody else is using. A lot of people will wake up at 2, 3 in the morning and people think that's crazy, but it's only crazy and abnormal compared to what's normal and not crazy, which pretty much is at the helm of most of people's suffering and, and lack of success. So I love to look at real estate that, maybe less than 1% of the world is using. And I love the fact that I can learn how to get up when the world is not, because that's our biggest challenge, right? So I'm going to just read a little bit of this for the podcast. And then when we get to the part where I share my morning routine, I'm just going to kind of free flow and let you know we'll be together until the half hour. So there's a secret weapon used by high performers, spiritual seekers, and self-mastery enthusiasts worldwide, a sacred, structured morning routine. For me, it began with a copy of The Miracle Morning. And I don't remember who told me about The Miracle Morning, but if it was you, thank you. And that is a book that's been written by the amazing Hal Elrod, who's really changed the world. He was the first person to really, really lock into that. So it was a book that made a compelling case for how you start your day matters. And more importantly, it matters more than anything else. And that's a pretty bold statement to say that how you start your morning matters more than anything else. But when you identify what happens if you don't claim control of your morning, because he would always say, win the morning, win the day. So if you don't win the morning and thus not win the day, everything else in your life is affected by that. So it is something that you could say is potentially more important than anything else. But reading this book was only the beginning. That's the interesting thing. This is not just a know it book. This is actually a know it, do it, practice it, and then own it type of book. So after thousands of days and hours of practice, or as I like to call it, praction is where practice and action and consistency take place. Because when you start practicing something like a morning routine, I'm going to share with you my morning routine. If you put it into play and start practicing it, the first thing you'll notice is that you're not good at it. That's what praction is. I made it up. Praction is the practice of being in action. And the reason why you have to identify that it takes practice is that you're not going to be good at it at first. And you have to keep going. So this misunderstanding that we have with success, that you have to be ready, it has to be the right time. I just got a text from somebody this morning and said, hey, I won't be able to make our call today. There's a lot going on. And, he was giving me a little bit of timing issue. So we've all been brainwashed to think that there's some precursors to success, that we have to be motivated, the timing needs to be right, and maybe we have to believe in ourselves. But practicing being in action, actually is the catalyst for creating all of those things. Believing in yourself, motivation, those things grow when you're in it. So all you have to do is have a reason to do this and put it into praction. And all of those things that you once thought were precursors, you'll develop along the way, including discipline. So after thousands of hours of praction, I've developed my own system. And that's what's cool. When you learn a morning routine, you can take it for what it's worth. I mean, that just the very idea of it is awesome, but you'll decide when you do it, what time you get up, and what's the structure of it, and allow yourself to see what works for you. Put it into action, practice being in action, and let it modify along the way. I've made modifications. I've been doing this for almost, I think, 18, 19 years now. And I get up earlier than I used to, and I have different modifications that work better for me. So when I share with you, if you ask for it, you say, give me your morning routine, and I share it with you, you don't have to do it exactly like me, right? You should do it exactly like you. So I call mine the Great Morning Rise Up routine. And it goes beyond just building habits and hacks. It's really about, I take it to this next level and I'll share with you the intricacies of it. It's about reclaiming agency over your life. Agency means control. So my system is not just about setting up a good day. It's about becoming the shot caller and dominant force of your day. And there's a little bit of a different nuance specifically when I start my day, and I'll share that. So it goes beyond that, and I want to share that with you today. So let me first explain how all this started, and then I'll guide you to build your own great morning rise up routine. So I want to give credit where credit is due. So I would tell you a little bit about this cat, Hal Elrod. I always like to look it up and honor the people that create great things by looking at how they got started. So some things you might not know about him unless you're a miracle morning person. Hal Elrod is a keynote speaker, success coach, and author of The Miracle Morning, which has sold, by the way, over 2.5 million copies worldwide and has been translated into 30 languages. I just can't wait to be able to read that my book, when it comes out, makes sense. And the other ones that I've written have been translated into different languages. Can't wait for that. By the way, we're live right now, live streaming. So if you're watching this and you want to interact, it won't end up on the podcast. But if you interact and ask questions or make statements, or you just want to say hi or yell at me, I will respond. And you just put that in the comments. You're either watching this on YouTube or Facebook or something like that. So go on and say hi. Tell me who you are, where you're coming from. So at 20 years old, see, there's always some sort of conflict. So if you're going through some shit right now and you're having a really rough time, well, everybody that's ever done anything amazing has done the same thing. So please understand that you could actually be in great shape to do something extraordinary. Because when he was 20 years old, Hal Elrod was hit head on by a drunk driver, right? Talk about a victim. And basically, from what we understand, he died for 6 minutes, broke 11 bones, and was told that he would never walk again. Not only did he walk, it's kind of like a Joe Dispenza story. Here, we're live right now, so I'm going to tell my wife that she is letting the dog bark right outside. Please, no barking while I'm live. That's what's fun about going live, is you've just been into the Dornick household. Because Archie doesn't care that we're live right now. So head-on collision with a drunk driver, and he died for 6 minutes. And I think he broke 11 bones, according to the story, and was told that he would never walk again. So not only did he walk, but he went on to become an ultra marathoner. So the book is cool, but this is a guy that, just like Joe Dispenza's story, he got hit by a car when he was riding his bike. But he went on to become an ultra marathon runner. That's not a 26-mile run. That's the big one, right? And an elite life coach. Years later, he survived a rare and aggressive form of leukemia. So are you having a bad day? Or are you recognizing now that you didn't get hit head on by a drunk driver and are struggling with leukemia, right? Because this guy did that with a 10% survival rate, and he's gone on to do all these amazing things. So when Hal says something like, you're just one morning away from transforming your life, I just love that. When I wake up in the morning, it always begins with gratitude, and I'll share that with you, how I do that. But what comes from that is really just extraordinary. I never know who I'm going to meet, and how, if I claim control of my life this morning, I'm not only setting myself up for a great day, but I'm very, very possibly setting myself up for, being the catalyst or the launch pad, or, just connecting and cascading a whole sequence of events. I often, when I meet people and they have an extraordinary impact in my life, like many of you, I always wonder if I would have met them if I didn't reclaim control of my life. Now, I could look at the adverse of that and see that there's no such thing as a bad day, right? Like, I could show you some times that things went really wrong and I was lazy and sucked my thumb in life, and that was a catalyst. But I always ask myself, like, how much control do I have over leveraging the odds, not only of my success, but of who I'm going to meet and the outcome of my day? Because I'm a big fan of detaching from outcomes, especially when it involves what other people need to do. But at the same time, I do like to see what power I have to leverage outcomes, right? Make them more probable. So the morning routine and things, simple things like eating healthy and drinking more water and turning off the news and things like that. I'm always doing those things, not to control outcomes, but to increase my power and control of leveraging outcomes. So the metric that I like to measure when you talk about KPIs and stuff like that, I don't just look at my bank account and how many new clients are coming into the Make Sense Academy and all of these things. What I do is I rest my head at night and I say, with all this shit, there's got to be a pony somewhere. So I like to measure my potential, and my potential goes sky high when I have a strong morning routine. And I'm coming to you at the end of my morning routine right now by sharing with you, as you'll see when I share the components of my morning routine, sharing with other people what I've gained from the morning routine is actually part of the morning routine. So I just want to share one of the primary aspects and highlights of his book. He gives something called the Savers framework, and that's Savers. So this is from The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And these are the core principles of the morning routine. And then we'll just get into the great morning rise up. So Elrod's message and method is based on 6 daily practices, each with activities a different part of, or I'm sorry, each activates a different part of your personal power. So that's what he's doing, is he's going through these 6 daily principles and activities to activate each one of his aspects of his personal power. So he calls them life savers, Savers, and I'll go through them quickly. So they're simple, flexible, and powerful, and they're the foundation upon which any personalized morning routine can be built. So what's cool about The Miracle Morning, if you haven't read it, is it's not telling you what to do. It's teaching you the core principles to build on. So you can imagine when I read it, I went right to work to build my morning routine. And that's what I'm hoping to pay forward to you today, is to take that idea that you build your morning routine and modify it along the way. And then also you can use mine as kind of a template and make it better for you. So here's what Savers means. So S is for silence. So whether it's meditation, prayer, breath work, or simply sitting in stillness, silence allows you to lower stress, reset your nervous system, and begin your day with clarity rather than chaos. Why not? Why not? So this is your time to get centered, to connect to your higher self, intuition, or faith before facing the noise of the world. The noise of the world you have no control over it. It's coming, right? What you can control is how much of it you allow in and consume, right? So that you can shut off some channels and activities that you do. So silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. So this is an interesting concept when you practice sitting in silence, and Eckhart Tolle is a big fan of that. Sometimes you think that it means nothingness. There's a lot of interesting things that you can learn in silence by shutting off the noise of the world. So the A in Savers is for affirmations. He's a fan. The word is not really out on affirmations. My philosophy is that I've never been a big fan of saying things that are not happening, right? Like, today's a great day, and all of these things. But I reverted back and I said, why not? Why not fill my brain with positive, forward thinking, pretend as if it's happening? Why not? Right? I was always worried that I would be lying to myself, but I tried both. So in this camp on Planet Dragon, we like affirmations. but you get to decide, right? So this is where you consciously overwrite the mental program that has been kept stuck in your brain, your conditioned mind, your programming that started when you were a child. So you declare, so you control. This is my way of letting the universe know that I am in control. So you declare who you are becoming and what you are creating that day. Hal emphasizes that writing affirmations that reflect goals, values, and commitments is really important. Make sure the affirmations basically reference goals, values, and commitments, not just vague positivity. So the more specific you are, the better, using words like, be descriptive of things. Don't just say what is going to happen, but also talk about how that affects you, what the value is. So instead of I am confident, right? I am becoming more confident every day by showing up, speaking up, and pushing through discomfort. Now, if you want, I have an affirmation that I say every morning, and I have a part of my routine. You'll get that in the morning routine if you ask for it. Once again, just say morning routine, and I'll send it to you. So the V in Savers, visualization. Visualization is mental rehearsal. Athletes, CEOs, and Olympians all use this. Why wouldn't you? You don't have to be an athlete, CEO, or an Olympian to use these techniques, right? You could just be the best version of yourself. You imagine yourself succeeding at your goals with emotional intensity. So you're starting to like lead from the future and act in the now. The practice, so this practice programs your subconscious to recognize opportunities and builds the belief that success is inevitable. Now, you'll notice when I share the intricacies of mine, we're almost there, that I go a little further than that. But here's a pro tip from Hal Elrod. Don't just see the end result, see yourself doing the work. That's really important. So the E is for exercise. This doesn't have to be an hour of intense training. So this could be a quick walk, yoga, push-ups, or stretching will do. Movement increases energy, improves moods. So a lot of people, there's some information on when you should work out in the day. I'm a big fan of just movement in the morning. I actually go to the gym at the end of the day because that works for me, but I always create some sort of movement, stretching, yoga, things like that. So it improves the mood and activates your brain's learning centers. It prepares you physically, mentally for the day ahead. So here's the R of Savers, almost there. Reading. Now, this is a big one. Shout out to my friend Jim Quick, who has just handed me the keys to become just somebody that devours at least one book a week. So what you're looking at here is like a year of books. And I just keep on recycling through. So the right book, read it at nighttime, read it in the morning, and it can change the trajectory of your life. Hal recommends reading at least 10 pages of personal development or spiritual literature each day. So he recommends just 10. You could even just do 10 minutes or 10 pages, depends on how fast you read. Over the course of a year, that's 12 books, right? So you could read, if you read for 10 minutes a day, you'd read 12 books a year, right? So basically you take Jim Quick's course, and you can find that through my resources. He gives us a really good deal. Then you can read one book a week. That's 52 books a year. So then when you read 52 books a year or even 12 books a year, you learn 12 new ways of thinking, living, and leading. And also you're filling your mind up and consuming stuff that you control, not from the outside in. So don't read to finish, read to change, right? And also remember that learning in the absence of action is another form of distraction. So do something with it. So the final S in Savers is scribbling, journaling. This is a big one. So these last two, reading and journaling, you'll see are a very important part of my morning structure. And that's how I've written books. That's how I have written this. I'm reading something that I wrote this morning for you. That's part of my journaling process. There's just something unique about writing down what you're inspired by. And I teach journal prompts in my morning routine because sometimes you get to the journaling part, especially if you're in praction and you're not good at it yet and you don't know how to get started. All you have to do is learn how to get started by answering a question. Like one of the first questions I invite people to say is like, what's happening today? Or write down, here's what's happening today. And just start writing about what your day is what it looks like ahead of you. So scribbling and journaling. Journaling helps you organize your thoughts, reflect on your growth, and track transformation. So cool. It's also where you capture your breakthroughs, your inner gold. I love that idea. You all have inner gold in you, and it's coming from some sort of universal force. You get these amazing ideas. If you're smart and you have wisdom over the years, you'll write them down. I use my phone. I put it in my notes. I'll scribble on something. But whenever I get a cool idea that kind of stops me, and I say, or I hear someone or read something or watch a YouTube video and something stops me and makes me go, find it interesting, I write about it. I never let those things pass through my head like a cloud. What I let pass through my head like the clouds in the sky is stuff that doesn't serve me. And we'll talk more about that. Write not because you know what to say, but write because writing reveals what to think, right? You can actually control that. So that's Hal Elrod's book. And as you can see, he gives you the basic constructs that you can start using for yourself. So what I want to do now in the 5 minutes that I have left, and remember, if you want my morning routine, which is extensive, and anybody that's ever started to do my morning routine sends me in a week or two saying my whole life is beginning to change. I will tell you that it will change your entire life if you do it. So I want to talk specifically, because I use a lot of the components of what Hal Elrod uses, but I want to talk specifically about the beginning of the morning, because no matter how you structure your morning routine, your exercise and when you have your cup of coffee or your sneakers by your bedside and all of those things, you get to design that. The only thing I would tell you is that the reading or the consuming, controlling what you consume, which is how you control what you assume, and the journaling is massively important. So if you're going to make your own routine, please add those, and then just add this simple premise that makes my morning routine unique. So here's the deal. Our brains are like computers. And when your brain goes to sleep at night, it's like putting your computer, I'm looking at my laptop now, on idle or sleep mode. Same thing, right? Your brain is a lot more complicated and powerful than your computer, but it goes into sleep mode and we need rest. So let's just consider that offline or unconscious, right? So what happens is in the morning, there's this very unique piece of real estate that very, very few people capture. And I'm somebody that does it almost all the time, and it's still hard. So I just want you to focus on that little bit of space that you have in the morning where you go from unconscious to conscious, eyes closed to eyes open, just a crack. I'm talking about a piece of real estate that's like 30 seconds to 1 minute, and it'll change your entire day. Now, what's about to happen is you're about to boot up yesterday's program, just like a computer. When I turned this computer on, I opened up my laptop. What happened yesterday or last night, boom, showed up. Your brain works the same way. So if you wake up in the morning and all of a sudden, you don't take control of that little spot in the morning right there, what'll happen is everything from yesterday will boot up and it'll be your regularly scheduled program, your default mode part of your brain, your subconscious, your autopilot will just start dictating. And if you don't control what's coming in, then you're probably programmed to consume things that support what your unconscious mind. So this is about reclaiming control in the morning. So the first thing I'm going to challenge you to do is put your programming on hold. And the way you do that is by just saying thank you. So as soon as you're in that first minute, all you have to do is remember to say thank you. And what happens when you say thank you is only referring to one moment. And it's the now. It's a practice of gratitude. Those two words, thank you, force your brain to say for what. And that's in that first 30 seconds to a minute. And when your brain says for what, you automatically focus on what is actually happening. You're alive. I can breathe. My eyes work. Turn to the side. If you have a partner, my husband, my wife is here. Oh my God, my children. And it starts to evolve in the minutes to follow. And you find yourself spending the first 3 minutes of waking in gratitude. Now, the reason why gratitude is such an important part of starting the day. So this is not miracle morning stuff. This is rise up with dragon stuff. The reason why starting with gratitude is so important is, first of all, it sets the tone for the day. But what it also does is you'll notice that it's placed yesterday on pause. It's created a space where you're allowing your day to start without your default mode booting up yet. It's still going to come, but when it comes and you're in a state of gratitude and you have more control, you can then all of a sudden consciously identify it as yesterday. And you can start to consciously determine that things don't apply today. But if you don't do that, if you don't start off with pausing it and create that space using gratitude, you're missing out. So like I said, you evolve and it starts to, you start to be thankful for all sorts of things. I like to give gratitude for the fact that I'm alive, and for whatever reason, the power up in the sky has given me another 24 hours. So here's the other part. So now you're in control in the morning. Everything else you do with your morning routine is up to you. You customize it any way you want. But what happens next is now you're in control. So you're conscious, and it's easy to remember other aspects of your morning routine if you just capture that moment. So what I like to do is I sit up, because there's a moment when you go from horizontal to seated. That's when you're like activating for the day, right? Your computer's booted up, and I sit at the side of the bed. And there's just something, it's a cue. When my feet touch the ground, the next thing that I do, and for those of you that are looking to grow businesses and they have anything to do with starting conversations, meeting people, networking, and just being a great communicator, we have an amazing program called Communication Breakdown that is almost finished, and it's teaching people how to be master communicators, master networkers. But all of those things are based on this premise of setting yourself up with a theme for the day. So what happens is you put your feet on the ground and you look up at the sky, right, where some sort of universal power and force is, and you just ask the question. You say, how can I help? That's the secret. You look up at the sky and you say, how can I help? And I would recommend, in the spirit and in support of affirmations, I would recommend that you don't just say it in your brain. Say, how can I help? My wife hears me say this every morning. I try not to do it too loud, but I say it, I verbalize it. And here's what's weird about this. When you ask God or the universe, how can I help? Unless you're on some sort of hallucinogenic, you're not going to hear anything. So the idea is to ask a question that has no answer, because when you get no answer to how can I help, what it does is it takes this part of you that is in this state of gratitude, because you're about to walk out of the room, right? And set the tone for the day. And the best way to go through your day as a human being is to be open and curious, having not made up your mind about anything. Because if you've made up your mind about something, you've brought yesterday's program, yesterday's conditioned mind into your life. Again, think about that. If you have an exclamation point behind everything that you say is, then you've brought yesterday into today. You are not in control of your life if you have made up your mind about everything or anything. So you want to try to get yourself in an open and curious place by saying, how can I help? No answer. And then what happens is you say, okay, so that's my goal for the day, is to find out how I can help. Now think about how cool that is. You're open, you're curious, and you're wondering. You have wonder and awe for the day. So first of all, when you go into your morning routine and you start reading and you start watching a YouTube video or listening to a podcast, right? And then you're writing, guess what? It comes from an open and curious brain. It comes from a brain that has the right protect switch off, open for information rather than closed to information. So I'm curious. I'm like, I wonder what I'm supposed to learn today. And anytime I meet somebody that day and I'm using my communication skills, guess what I'm doing? I'm asking myself before I even start speaking, how can I help? So that's my theme. So that's all I wanted to share about my morning routine. Obviously, there's a lot more. We're out of time today for our Monday Rise Up. But I would invite any of you that hear this as a recording or live to just reach out to me. Follow me on Instagram at Dr. JC Dornick. Ask about our Make Sense Academy. We have a private community where we actually meet live every day and we work on this stuff. And You get access to all of the coursework that we do, and it's less money than you'll probably spend on stuff you don't need today. Or just reach out and just say, hey, give me that morning routine. I do a lot of live stuff. I'm communicating with people and in communities and groups and stuff. So just ask for my morning routine and just put it in play. Don't just read it and say, oh, that's cool. Read it and put it into that, what we said, praction. And I just guarantee that everything in your life will start to change because you will change. If you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at will begin to change. It's who you are that determines how well what you do works. If you're the person that's out there doing a lot of stuff and not getting any return on it, or you're not getting, the results that you'd like, it's not what you're doing. It's the who that you're whoing while you're doing. So this morning routine is really about reclaiming that best version of you and just coming into the day in control, putting yesterday on pause, being the dominant force, the shot caller of your life. It's all accomplished in the morning. And in our morning routine, we do talk about the nighttime schedule because that's important, because it's precursor. It's setting you up. You need to have some good sleep. But anyway, love and appreciate you all. Remember, if you learned something today, give it away, right? Share it with other people, whether you're watching a YouTube video or listening to the podcast, give it away. That's how it's going to stay. And by the way, have a nice day. I love you so much. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time.